Welcome back once again. It is your old Professor Pilk, and of course, we need to talk about Wistoria Chapter 56 that just dropped earlier this week. And this is a bit of a doozy, so hang tight. It's not as long as some of the other chapters, but there is a lot of content to cover, and this really does kind of wrap up the not the end of the fight quite yet, but I mean it definitely is like we're coming to the precipice of it all. Anyway. Guards eliminated. Commencing provisional seal, and then of course this is Lafia. We've seen her before, or Lafia, whatever. We've seen her before. Another borrowed character from Damachi, but she's made several appearances in the series, basically working for the elves and their faction. And if you remember last time, basically at this point in time, they have more or less like sprung a trap on Goetia, basically a double cross. It's weird, but it's a thing. And they'll explain a lot more here short. Trust me, we haven't even scratched the surface of how wild this gets. And Colette's over here. You know what's going on? First the disintegration right in front of us, and now there's some tree covering and she's like, did she embed a remote circle in my collar and shoot them down from the top of the tower? Yeah, she kind of did. She totally kind of did. Everything's just crazy right now. Everything is just completely wild, right? Yeah. It was her. She cast a hyper distance spell, which, I mean, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, at this point, everything's like in shambles. Goetia's eliminated. Everything is just popping off, okay? Another character that's borrowed from Damachi is Philvis up here at the top, the dark-haired elf that you see up there. So I believe that's the mission complete. You know, she's like, yeah, the 45 strong of the elf faction have cleared every sanctum up to the 45th. So in other words, like basically one elf per sanctum, which is wild. Because remember, the elf queen is kind of pulling the strings behind the behind closed doors. Like, she's basically taken more or less a leadership role here. They're like, Ancient Whitebeard, the nerve of him to ask me was such a trifling matter. Basically, it's insinuating that he kind of asked her to do this. The question is, can I trust the remaining 5 of you to... can I trust the remaining 5 of you, dear swindler? And more or less, like, she's asking if the rest of the Magi are kind of like ready to do their part. And this dude's like, it's already taken care of. So, what are they alluding to? You're about to find out. And it is crazy. Crazy. Of course, we got this dude here who's just losing his mind. He's like, our plan is ruined. Wretched Magia vendor, whatever. Your supremacy is nothing but a blight on us all. I mean, I don't think that's true. I think they're, at least as far as we know, they're kind of preventing, like, more or less the apocalypse. Their version of Ragnarok. And we've seen this dude spiral out before, but you can see right here, he just goes nuts. Like, basically, this whole page is just him, like, what are we going to do? OMFG, blah, 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 blah. I mean, nothing we haven't seen from this guy before. He's just spiraling. And then he just grabs this random person, and he's like, I won't hesitate to kill a puppet, and trust me, we've got plenty of them. In other words, he's basically using the characters, the people that were just kind of being used by Goetia, but weren't quite, like, on their side. Were just kind of taken over by the, remember, by smelling the flowers and all that, they could take them over. He's basically using a human shield and taking a hostage. And they're all like, really? Really? Hostage negotiations at the 11th hour. You've lost. You're done. And he just won't give up. I mean, fair enough. But you hear this. This is not... I laughed for a minute because I read this first as explosion. And I read it in Megumin's voice. But it's not explosion. Read that again. That's Iceplosion. Bam! You know what's coming next. Now, I want you to pay really close attention because this is crazy. And we're going to harken back to chapter 6 or 7 at the very beginning. This is what I love about Amori. Amori is able to, like, harken back to things and drop little seeds along the way. And then, literally, and I think it was chapter 6. So I'm going to say the better part of 650 chapters later. I almost said 60. 50 chapters later, boom. All the Goetia are basically exploding from the inside out in these jagged shapes. So you know what they are? They are ice. It is literally an ice explosion. But it gets better. Because there's old girl, there's Elfie, and we know what's coming next. She's like, yup. Just like straight aura farming. Just standing there like, you know, like you have the gall to be in my presence. Yeah. And this dude's figured it out already. He's like, that was not shape-shifting magic. And she's like, adorable. 544 puppets. That's pretty impressive. But ultimately meaningless when 300 of them were literally me. She had, this whole time, 300 ice clones waiting in the wing. Now, I know on the surface of it, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but it will. Once again, Amori is going to wrap all this together. So, of the 544 clones, literally over half of them are her. Or, well, her ice clones. Yeah. Crazy. And even Will's just taken aback. He's like, this is insane. But that is the power of the Magi of Ander. And this is not the first time we've seen a show of force. Probably one of the biggest shows of force we've seen. But you can tell, basically by the look on her face, number one, she's done with it all. Number two, she's not necessarily flexing here. And what I mean by that, it is a flex what she's done, but she's not breaking a sweat. That means that 300 of these clones that she's then shape-shifting at will. They were a set of characters. Now they're all her. And she's doing all this and not breaking a sweat. Like, this is insane. I want you to really think about how much power she's exhibiting here. And she's doing it with a smile on her face. We've seen her get serious, and right now, she's not even at her most serious. She's barely tasked by this situation, to really kind of put it mildly. Like, this is just a walk in the park for her, essentially. And even Julius is on the action. He's got a couple of clones out there, too. So, it is insane. And he kind of thanks Elfie. He's like, I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for her. Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, judging by how many puppets there are, I assume they can't be controlled like my clones can. And, yeah, she's I mean, absolutely nail on the head. You can see, oh, girl over here, Shade, is losing her mind. She is absolutely, I mean, we already know she has, like, anger management issues, but this is on a whole other level. She's like, if you had such a power over your puppets, you would have noticed that we replaced them a long time ago. Pause. This means that they have seen this plan coming. All of this has been in the works. Now, if you remember back a couple chapters ago, we saw the Elf Queen, who was like, suddenly everyone else is out of the picture, and she's the only one there dead center. Now we find out that the big dog, the bearded guy, not me, but the guy in the book, I can't remember his name to save my life. But anyway, the Light faction, the leader of his faction, that dude has basically been pulling the strings. And even though they're in the dungeon right now doing their thing, This is all by design. And Elfie wasn't there, but last time we saw the Magia. All the Magia are off doing their own thing. They're all just hatching plans. That is how deep this goes. They knew. Now, unfortunately, it does mean that they knew and let things get really, really, really bad. But it seems like they always had this under control, which is wild. Wild. Yeah. And she's, Sherman's over here like, this is why I told the others to ignore the mages on the Southwest. Pretty much all those mages on the Southwest were clones. Yeah. And everyone's just like, wait. What is going on? None of this makes sense. And she's like, yeah, it's almost unfair how powerful they are. Like, literally, she's saying the Magia are so broken, they're essentially rewriting the rules of being broken. Like, they not only knew, they had triple-double crossed everybody. This is like a four-septuple quad cross. I don't know. It's like a double, triple, fourple cross. It's crazy how deep this goes. And they're over here like, and we'll get to that other. She's like, but wait, everything was carried out so swiftly. The only way it could have gone this well is if you already knew the enemy's strategy. So yes, they were not just on the inside. They had been listening in this whole time. And this is over here, and that's when we meet old girl again. Now, we've seen her before, and she's like, this was to force out every bit of corruption. Literally, they had to let things kind of go off the rails a little bit. They had to let things get really, really, really bad. And unfortunately, they did have to sacrifice some good mages, but in order to, they did it all for the sake of basically dragging out the worst, I guess the worst culprits in their society. Yeah. And she's like, the foul elements that have infiltrated the tower must be eliminated. In other words, it's short-term loss, long-term gain. I'm sure you guys have heard me say that before. So this is all just a really deep-seated, and it gets better. It gets better here. And she's like, it's all thanks to Will and his friends. And you find out that they had put basically listening devices, almost like trackers, in their clothing. Now, if I recollect, and I think this guy's only showed up like once or twice in the series, but if I recollect, this was the dude that actually made the cloaks. I think that's the guy. I'm drawing a blank on who he is, but the way they explain it, this guy shows up and he's like, I was once the 10th generation owner of the boutique and a covert operative of the Fire faction. So in other words, the dude that was like behind all of this was also still in the Fire faction. And they're like, you're a literal spy. And he's like, yep, I absolutely am. We hid listening devices in all your clothes. We were tracking your whereabouts. This is why we put the brand new people on the case. It wasn't you guys were, had main character energy and all that. No, you were just the easiest to manipulate in this particular situation. Bam. I love that because it makes a lot more sense. It's not just protag for protag's sake. It's you guys served a purpose. This was the purpose. I love that. Amori let everything just go crazy. And then he's slowly but surely saying, but that was deliberate, that was deliberate, that was deliberate, that was deliberate. This is what I love about Amori's style. It was phenomenal. And he even mentions that he used to know Sion way back in the day, and he's like, you can call me Big Brother. Just like straight up, just like you always used to. You can just call me Big Brother. I will always be here for you as your as your big brother. And I love that. But Sion's not having it. Like, he's just like, you got some splaining to do. You got some absolute splaining to do. But in the reality, yeah, everything is just wrapping up very, very, very nicely. And, of course, everyone's trying to get out of there. Shade's just losing her mind, and everybody else is, like, basically trying to run. Shade's the only one who's actually trying to fight, and everybody else is just kind of chilling there. And here we go. She's like, there it is again, that awful feeling I got when I first met that rat with the sword. I can't believe it. The tower, we have been in the palm of their hand the entire time. That is absolutely what they're saying here. Not only have they known, but they have been playing them for fools this whole time. And she's just like, our last chance here is Charles. The dude that's like basically right there with the stones, ready to make she's like, this is it. You are our final hope. And he's like, open your eyes, Shade. The fate of Goetia is kind of in my hands. 100 members of Goetia, 500 puppets, 12,000 guards. All those pieces needed to be forfeit to make room for one to take the board. In other words, essentially, he is playing four-dimensional chess, and everyone but him is the pawn. He's not even the king. He's the queen, because he can just move anywhere, do anything, and literally everybody else on the board is a pawn. And that is crazy. Allow me to thank you for playing the game just as I desired. I will not let your brethren's sacrifice be in vain. I shall be the one to unseal the heavens. Remember, they're just trying to drop that whole barrier. And Shade, of course, is losing it, but I mean, she always does. She's not really able to see anything more than the surface level at any given point in time. And she's just like, all right, fine. You want to play that game? We'll destroy everything. And she basically gives out like a call to destroy everything. She's like, wreck them all out. And everyone's kind of noticing, they're like, the people that are left that are puppets, they're not organized anywhere before. They've lost all sense of self-preservation, and they've gone completely mad. But, I mean, it's a desperation move. It's 100% a desperation move. So Will and Liana are going to basically have to clean up this mess. This is just kind of like their role in the current lexicon of things. So that's kind of where we are now. Victory for the towers within reach, and Will and Liana basically are going to go wipe out the remaining stragglers. Elfie is basically just like pulled the rug out from under him, and all the Magia are just absolutely, I mean, they're showing why they are the best of the best. So that is the culmination of Chapter 56. I know I rambled a whole lot, but this was a really fun chapter. Let me know what you guys thought, as always, in the comments. We'll be back with Chapter 57 in about a month's time, so make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell. I've got a lot more coming at you here really, really soon. Take it easy, y'all.